Epic Loot Radio. Epic Loot Radio.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special episode of Epic Loot Radio, where we're going to be sitting down, Kurt and I, diving into this year in review, our Game of the Year nominees and winners. It's going to be a lot of fun, especially as we try to figure out what the hell best game direction truly means. It's going to be a lot of fun. Welcome in, everyone. If you guys are here and enjoying the show, be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to check out the audio version of the podcast, which is found everywhere podcasts can be found. But let's start off the episode like we start off every episode with, what are you playing? We just got off the Thanksgiving holiday weekend, so happy Thanksgiving to you. What were you playing?
Happy Thanksgiving to you, Brian. I hope you and your rather large family ate well and gave thanks.
Oh,
and
we
had
ate
a wonderful
well.
time. Yeah, I'd imagine on my end as well. As far as what I've been playing, we have a little game called Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth coming around the corner with my boy Ichiban front and center yet again, and I have been diving back into Yakuza Like a Dragon, Yakuza 7, known to some. Yeah. And that game was the first game that took that franchise in the turn-based direction. It's interesting. We got Yakuza going turn-based, we got Final Fantasy going action Devil May Cry style. So you love to see it. I played that game when it came out. I bought it at launch and played it like 70 hours. And I figured I'd jump back in with Infinite Wealth coming around the corner. And I was like, I remember thinking that game was so good that I even thought it maybe should win RPG of the Year, sticking in theme here, over Final Fantasy Remake, which is, I know that's insanity talk, but I was like, if I jump back into this, am I going to think it's as good? Am I going to feel like, well, I've already played 70 hours of this. This is kind of the same old thing, going back through it, going through the motions. Dude, I'm another 70 hours into this game. I cannot stop. This game is so good. Like, if you love RPGs, if you love job systems and relationship type persona stuff, and you just love a fun, wacky, well-written story, if you like anime at all, or just anything in regard to character development in your games and like good narratives and stuff, Like a Dragon is so good. And yeah, you can skip all the other Yakuzas. You're more than welcome to dive into that whole universe if you get hooked, kind of like I have. I'm sort of putting that off because there's like 6 games that I have to play, But Yakuza Like a Dragon and Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, they got to get better at naming their games, man. Those two, like you can just play. Yeah, like, or Square. Second story are Birth by Sleep.
Triangle Strategy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can just play those two because they're Ichiban's story. I really wish they had committed more to the hard reboot. They basically hard rebooted with Like a Dragon, and now with Infinite Wealth, they want to bring Kiryu back into it. He's the protagonist from the first 7 games or what have you. So they're sort of joining they're doing the Marvel thing, got to bring the 2 protagonists together. I kind of would have liked if they'd have just kept it as like this hard reboot thing.
Yeah.
But it does seem like you'll be able to play just these 2 games, have an excellent time. So I'm loving it, and you can get Like a Dragon on sale, I think, right now, and it's on Game Pass. Fantastic game. So
Game Pass,
good,
man. That is
so good.
Game Pass is hashtag dad life for sure as well, because it's like, save me some money,
Yeah.
man. It's like, we got that rocking and rolling. It's always the fun critique that I see people push back on me. They're like, Game Pass, is bad, etc. And it's like, I always like, how many kids do you have? And they're like, all right, okay, like,
yeah,
all right, I understand why Brian likes this service.
I am the kid. It's just me. I'm the kid playing Game Pass. But no, it's since this is Ginger primarily, since it's a primarily like Final Fantasy and now Starfield actually channel.
Starfield, Star Citizen, dude. Like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh, we'll talk
space,
about that.
Final Fantasy in space. But
Space,
yeah,
baby.
it like a dragon pulls on the sort of iconic job system from the classic Final Fantasy games that perpetuates into pretty much almost all JRPGs now in some shape or form.
Yeah.
But it takes that word that we first saw in the original Final Fantasies and makes it literal. So like at a certain point, your character like was supposed to be dead, but a guy like finds you and fixes you up and stuff, and you all become best friends. And then you guys are like homeless and like deadbeats or whatever. So you literally go to like the Japanese unemployment office where they will get you a job. They will find you a job, and like the jobs that your characters have, it's not like bard and rogue and knight
Yeah.
and mage and stuff like that. It's like chef and garbage man and police officer and teen pop idol. Like they're
Nice.
like actual jobs,
I
and
like
like
how
the
the
moves
I like how the
that you have.
unemployment office is going to drive you into being a sensation. You need to be a team pop star.
Yeah,
Let's go.
yeah. Hey, that Japanese welfare system, I guess. But yeah, no, that it takes that word job literally and has like actual sort of vocational jobs, and it's really hilarious when you're like a chef with a chef hat throwing like knives and cutlery and using like flambe on people and stuff. It's hilarious. It's so great. Yeah, it's such a good time. It's not like any other game out there, and I highly recommend it. So
That's excellent. Excellent. As for me, I've been playing a metric ton, heroic dose of Star Citizen. And also this holiday, I got to spend some time with the PAX Day Alpha. So seems like I'm being drawn into like alphas because both Star Citizen and PAX Day are in that state, and I have to say both are exciting. As a somebody who loves the MMO genre, I'm so happy to see more investment into the sandbox MMORPG, which is both of these games. And then, like I was telling you, because like he's like, yeah, Starfield, but going from like Starfield to Star Citizen is such a treat on both cases. Like I wouldn't recommend like as somebody who plays Star Citizen and then they're like, oh, I'm gonna go check out Starfield. Like you're gonna have a vastly different experience, and you're gonna feel like a degraded experience when you step into what this team has done and what they're doing. And so, like as we look forward, we won't go into too much detail on today's show, but we'll have more podcasts for you guys as we look into 2024 and as that year becomes. It's going to be interesting to see. Just 2023 is one of the best years on record, especially if you start to look at the numbers of Metacritic, for video games. What does 2024 do? Are we going to see a follow-up to this year? And if so, I think games as a service will struggle because this year, as we're going to go through a lot of these games that we've nominated, are incredible. So we'll talk a little bit more about some Star Citizen stuff because I've nominated it as a kind of an honorable mention in the list of upcoming games that we're going to cover. So I'm excited about that.
a little debate there. Technically, can it be best ongoing game when it hasn't had its actual release yet?
It's still
an
ongoing.
alpha. It's
Well,
still but it's an alpha though, so it just depends on what.
I would say if Fortnite has been allowed to be nominated for things, that game was in beta for like 5-6 years. So it's like I think if we're going to say like the game is playable, you can purchase it and you can play today. Like I think that would classify as something that is like it's still ongoing, and that actually in and of itself, while could be a negative from those who are fatigued about waiting for this game to officially come out, it's still coming out. Like the game in and of itself has not disappeared, and based off of just the fact that they actually share their financials, I don't think it's going to be going away any time soon. So it's like I think that has me excited. That's why I wanted to make sure it was on our list for today's show, because it's an interesting discussion topic, and we'll be sure to dive in more in the future podcasts for that. But a couple show notes because we're going to be doing a lot of content here, especially as it goes through the different categories. So I won't be highlighting comments on today's stream. If you guys are new or if you've come into different podcasts, I like to always bring in, comments to kind of drive the discussion. We are reading the comments, so you can influence the discussion, but I won't be highlighting those because Kirk has gone the extra mile to try and deliver us a beautiful outline here that just makes it visually, hopefully fun to watch and also to listen to, especially if you guys are listening to the MP3 version of this on wherever. Thank you so much for being here. Kirk, what's our first category? What are our nominations?
We fixed the Game Awards, everybody.
We have. We solved the problem.
Our first category is Best Ongoing Game, awarded to a game for outstanding development of ongoing content that evolves the player experience over time. So in short, the live service category, the game that you continue to play, which the Game Awards continuously nominates Fortnite, Apex, Destiny, and almost nobody else for some reason. So we figured that we give some other games some shout outs. And yes, I did leave Star Citizen off of this. That's on me. I think I might have done that because it's in alpha or just because I had the wrong list. But all of these 6 we wanted to nominate as well. And in particular, Brian wanted to nominate. I have a list from him that has New World instead of Star Citizen. Maybe he wasn't as deep into Star Citizen at that point. But why don't you start us off with?
I have New World, I have Star Citizen, and I have Halo. Those are my 3. And then you're like, oh,
maybe I just assumed with how much Final Fantasy 14 content you do that you would nominate it, and I was wrong. So that's on me.
We're gonna get you into Star Citizen. I agree with Lawson and Walmart. He's saying we got to get you in. We will. This is our quest for 2024, guys. Anyway,
you gotta put it on console.
Your 3 noms.
You start us off far left. Let's hear a little bit about New World because I actually don't. I know it's the Amazon game, right? But I really don't know that much about this, and I think you have done some content on it in the past.
Oh yeah, I still do. I have a New World dedicated channel. But for those listening into the audio only, the other 3 noms are Rainbow Six Siege, Hunt, and Dead by Daylight Alien. And that you've put up for. So New World as an ongoing game, they just released their first expansion. I think it's unfortunate because off the bank of the expansion itself, they've delayed some of the key features that I've kind of been like, this is really a needed feature. And the reasoning and logic behind those delays, as a developer, I can totally understand. As a player, I'm just like, but like, these are like, this is the next milestone for what some features that they're working on, and they didn't give an ETA on that date. So I think from New World's perspective, it had an incredible 2023. It had a lot of content that was added to it, a lot of things that are still on the way, and I think its future is going to continue to be as bright as it can be because the developers at AGS, they're still working on so many cool things. So I'm thrilled with the state of the game. I wish that there's a couple of things that will just make it much more enjoyable and easier for me to step into more consistently. And that has nothing to do with the game. It just has to be the fact that I got 6 kids and it keeps me plenty busy. But it's going to be a fun experience to see where that goes from there. Now, Dawn Trail, aka, is the upcoming 2024 expansion, but it's beautiful artwork. I applaud you for picking.
Yeah, I just picked the artwork that sometimes it's for like a specific expansion or something, but yeah, the nominees are the games themselves, so it's not any particular DLC.
Final Fantasy typically gets nominated for best ongoing community. Like, it's not like I've seen it, and I don't think it's ever really won best ongoing game, but I could be wrong. Maybe that took it with Endwalker with all the hype behind the game. Because let's be real, the real game awards are hype driven, and also what have you done?
It's a popularity contest.
It's a popularity contest. But essentially, like, this year alone for Final Fantasy has been, I think, a struggle for a lot of longtime vets, and especially as it relates to just the internet discourse. And this was all predictable. Like, as the content that they've pushed out concluded the story, you end up having a lot of people stepping away, taking breaks. But that's the strength of Final Fantasy 14. Take a break and then come back and play it. And I think it's essentially when people force themselves through, like, oh, I got to keep playing it, that they end up running into the level of friction that we end up seeing playing in the online space. But as far as the game, it consistently does updates. It consistently delivers quality. content. You're not seeing updates roll out with bugs and each issues. But I think essentially what the problem that Final Fantasy 14 faces is that it's so good, people want more and they want to keep playing. Like that is in and of itself, I think, a recipe for kind of a winning option. And then Halo Infinite this year for me on the noms. I think the reason why Halo Infinite should be on this list is both, especially with season 5, but coming off of season 4. So if I look at the entire year, season 4 really started to show like, hey, this is we're moving in the right direction. And then season 5 was able to, I think, capitalize off that. And so I've been able to kick back, relax, and really enjoy playing Halo again. And just this weekend, they had the Halo 3 remastered playlist, which is all these great classic Halo 3 maps that I was just living and breathing and having a wonderful time with. So I think all of those games, and then Star Citizen, for the reasons I said at the start of the show, is, I think, incredible to see what they've got coming up. And I think the question that a lot of people kind of feel right now, and we'll have to see if it ends up proving out to be true, is that now is almost like the right time for people to get into Star Citizen, as opposed to like 10 years ago where you're like, all right, yeah, but now it's like, oh, here's this coming. Oh, and this test went really well. And oh, here's what's coming next with Squadron 42 and more things for us to cover and discuss in the futures. How about your 3 nominations, dude? You got some really good ones, especially with Rainbow Six Siege. I have to say, I own the game. I just never made the time to really kind of sit back and play it, but I have friends who really enjoy it.
So the thing about Siege is it's got such a high skill ceiling. And that's sort of a double-edged sword because it's a difficult game to just kind of jump on and play. Hunt is kind of like that too. But Rainbow Six Siege is a difficult game to get into, but it's also a difficult game to put down. And I nominated it for this category because it's really doing so well right now. And out of all the games on here, I think Dead by Daylight might have gone on longer, but Rainbow Six Siege is in year 8.
Mm-hmm.
That is 8 years of a game,
Yeah.
and it's still being uttered in the same breath as your Call of Duty and your Apex and your Fortnite. It's a little more under the radar, but I mean, what do you expect with a game that's been going 8 years strong? And you still got a lot of Twitch streamers out there like Jinxie that are incredibly popular. I see clips of him on TikTok all the time. He's hilarious. You got people like Tim the Tatman coming over. They want to learn the game. I mean, this game is still like culturally relevant for some reason. And the reason is that Ubisoft continues to deliver on compelling content for this game. They've had operator after operator after operator. They always typically add something new and exciting to the game in terms of the mechanics and the abilities that they have. They're usually not broken. Like, I don't know if I would say that the game is balanced. There's definitely, when you have a game that goes on for 8 years, the characters that you started with 8 years ago, some of them aren't going to have as much utility because you kind of have to, go higher and faster with each additional update that you have. But as a counterpoint to that, some of the best operators are literally the ones that the game launched with. Like, some of them are obsolete now, but some of them are still just as good, if not better, now that the game has grown and now that utility can take more shapes and forms when you're, in a cooperative team with other members. It has the components of like Destiny rating or things like that you see in cooperative games where you really need to rely on your teammates. Communication is key, but it's putting that in a PvP type of format. This game set out to do something incredibly unique in terms of a PvP experience that was highly tactical, highly cooperative, and there still isn't really anything else on the market that's like it, which I think is why it's done so well and continues to have some of the sort of mind share of the gamer population. And yeah, I think it deserved its flowers for sure. Any additional thoughts on Rainbow Six Siege from you, other than that you need to try it?
Well, like I've actually played it. I own it. I've purchased the game and played with some friends well back in like year 1. Like this is, and I haven't ever really kind of like touched back on that until again, and bringing back up Star Citizen. I was like playing, and I like the tactical first person shooting. That's the missions that I just recently went on, and I was like, oh man. So I was like, I want to step back into the Call of Duty campaign, and I want to step into I was like, yeah, a more tactical shooter that really has that responsiveness. So I was like, yeah, I've actually been thinking about like just downloading and
great gunplay,
checking it out.
Yeah, fantastic gunplay.
Phenomenal.
Speaking of great gunplay, my second nominee is Hunt Showdown. And if I could pick any winner that I wanted to, it would be this game, because I've talked about this game several times on Epic Loot Radio. I've been playing it now.
Mhm.
I would say on and off, but pretty much just on when I can, whenever there's something going on, for the last year now. Crytek have accomplished something special with this game. It is a extraction battle royale shooter
Ooh,
that
okay.
is, yeah, sort of came on the scene very early, along with like Escape from Tarkov. It's thrown its flag in the ground. It's cemented. It's here. It's here to stay. It is very niche, and yet they reached their peak concurrent players this summer with their Tide of Shadows event. So it's as big as it's ever been, and they're sort of already arrived so that they can capitalize on this sort of extraction shooter trend right now, the battle royale trend. But the thing that makes this game unique is that all of the guns are from like the 1800s, and it's so cool. There's so many things. I could nerd out about this game so much, but they have like binaural audio, which means they take two microphones that are meant to simulate each of your ears.
Mhm.
So when you hear something, when you hear footsteps, when you hear a gunshot in the distance, you hear it from both ears. You hear the audio picked up by both microphones. So you can really sort of, you hear a shot in the distance and you're like, oh, the other team's that way. Like, you know exactly where they are. And you're like, that sounds like a rifle, and it sounds like it's like 300 meters that way. So like we got some space here, but we could run into them. We could get into a shootout. That type of feeling is so cool. And then
Yeah.
when you get into a shootout and you've got like a rifle with like 4 bullets in it, and you're like, yeah, I got to make these shots count, or I'm going to be running behind a haystack and reloading my gun. I mean, there's no other video game that's like this, that has PvP, where you're having to think in terms of like the utility of your weaponry being so limited. And yet the depth of things that you can literally bring like a jar of bees, like poison bees that will like sting your enemy and like fog up their vision and make it to where they can't heal themselves and stuff. It's so cool, so unique. There's not anything else like it. It's so fresh in terms of being a battle royale, and that it's the thing that I would compare it to most, I think, would be like Destiny Strikes, because
Okay.
you have like these bosses on map, and the whole point of the game is kind of to go and take down the boss and retrieve the bounty and get out with it alive. But there's so many layers of that. There's going to be people that just want to get into PvP fights. There's going to be people who are going to wait for you to go in, do all the work, beat the boss, and then as you're running to the exit, they're going to snipe you from like in an open field 150 yards away from you with a rifle, with a scope. I mean, like, there's so much depth to how you can play, what's going on in a given match. It never gets old every time you go into a new lobby. Yeah, this game is fantastic. I love it. I hope that it has a long shelf life, because there's no other game like it. We need more games that are not just, it's another Fortnite, Apex, Warzone. Like,
Yeah.
I love how unique and a breath of fresh air this game is in terms of, and it's not for everybody. And I think that's a good thing. It's the type of thing that everyone should try and not everyone should stick with, because it's fantastic, but it definitely, it can be a little bit obtuse. It's kind of like that Dark Souls feel of like, I can bounce off this, but it got its hooks in me, and I love it. And so that we can wrap up the category here, my last nomination is Dead by Daylight.
Hmm.
I nominated Dead by Daylight because in terms of gameplay, the game really hasn't evolved that much from when it started. I think about the same amount of years as Rainbow Six Siege. I think it's been about 7 or 8 years ago. But the gameplay loop works. There's a reason this game is still very, very popular on Twitch. And as far as nominating it for this year, this game has done with licensing what no other game besides, I guess, Fortnite has done. I mean, they are absolutely killing it. I mean, talk about going out and getting Resident Evil, Alien, and Chucky
Hmm.
all in the same year, putting these properties together in a list that already includes the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, the Scream franchise. I mean, this is literally like a horror mecca at this point in terms of films and licenses that, anybody who means anything is now in this property. And it's just, it's amazing to think about that you can just go into this game and queue up as a survivor, and any one of these iconic
Villains,
axe
monsters.
murderers, yeah, can be chasing you around, and you get that variance from game to game. Again, there's nothing else like it. I think I really do value uniqueness in this type of category, and there's a reason that the game continues to be so popular, and I continue to play it. I think it's very fun. It's not a very like it's almost the inverse of the last two nominations. It's not very highbrow. It's not very complicated skill ceiling type of gameplay loop, but it works. It's very basic, fundamental, good loop in terms of like what you're doing from match to match, and I think that's why it has so much appeal. So now
Who
we come
wins?
to the point where we have to decide on. So if you were gonna pick the winner, who would it be?
I would give it to Halo Infinite, personally, because of what they've been able to accomplish this year. And also, again, like, do we fault a game for how it launches? And if you look at all three of my games, they've all struggled out the gate, but yet they're still here. And
Yeah.
so, based off of just being able, as a long time, I'm biased. I'm a long time Halo fan. Halo 2 was really like this game, and it was such a touchstone point in my career that I want to continue to see like Halo, Halo games. I do think that like I would give up my winner for a game that's in more places, because the reality is that Halo isn't on every system. And that in and of itself, I think it should be, because when it comes down to the shooter, have fun. Same thing, like where you like Rainbow Six Siege, that's everywhere.
Yeah.
Like blocking it off from one aspect. You want more players so that they can rally around the game rather than any kind of console war. But that's just always my long time bias. How about you? What, like, you got your three noms? Like, we're gonna have to fight it out. Like,
If I could pick, it would undoubtedly be Hunt Showdown. Like I said, they had their best year that they've ever had. I think that it probably stands the lowest odds. Like it's the biggest underdog out of this whole group to be successful with the developer that it is, with sort of the notoriety that it has. I mean, you look at Rainbow Six, they've got the might of Ubisoft behind it. New World has the might of the whole Amazon business behind it. Dead by Daylight has all these licenses, even if they're a small studio. Hunt is just game about guys running around with Civil War weapons, and it's competing enough to be on this list. I think that the gameplay loop is fantastic. I think that it is uncompromising in its vision. It doesn't really care if it's not your type of game. It's going to be the type of game that it wants to be. And in terms of, I didn't really even get into this, but in terms of events and content, I mean, they're crushing it. They've got free battle passes. They've got free events, 3 times a year that completely change the scope of the game in terms of, like, you're running in there now, everything's on fire, and there's like a ring that's of fire that's surrounding everything that's in your way. You've got new bosses now where there's just like an alligator in the boss in the river that can just pop up on you and try to eat your face, and you can take that out as an optional thing. I really do think Hunt Showdown, out of all these games, deserves to win. However, I know that you've never played this game in your life, and there's going to be a lot of
where is it on multi-platform, and is this a game that I can play around my kids? Because that's like, I can play Halo around my kids without a problem.
You can play Halo around your kids. Interesting. I don't know if it's any less kid friendly than Halo is, because Halo is obviously rated M.
No,
but
Infinite, they moved it to a T.
Infinite's T. Okay, then I think Hunt is probably rated M.
Okay.
But given like the two franchises that we're talking about here, and the fact that I anticipated that you would at the end of the day say, I think it should be Halo, I came in prepared to agree with you that it should be Halo.
Yeah.
So and also it's kind of special for Epic Loot Radio. It's the only game that we have on a non-show week gotten on here, done a live reaction to content that they were dropping, because we care that much about this game. I think that's explanatory in and of itself, that this game is special to us, and so I am more than happy to get behind it. Having said my piece for Hunt Showdown, a good competitor, Halo Infinite is the Epic Loot Radio best ongoing game of 2023.
Congratulations to Halo. And then I was going to say, like, you've convinced me to try Hunt. I'm going to have to find a kind of a time to slot that in when, the kids are asleep, because that's where it's like, them the rules for
Yeah,
me and
yeah,
my
yeah.
gaming schedule. Like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna play this because like I can also play like Gears of War, and the reason is because you can turn off all the gore and the mature language
Yeah.
and stuff like that, so it ends up being
It's
a little
not
bit less.
gory. I think it's more like the artistic design, the
Yeah,
aesthetic is very like voodoo horror type of thing. The bosses are very grotesque looking. But no, there's not a lot of gore going on or anything. It's not really delving into any type of horror. I think it's more unnerving type of design. With sound design and things like that. But yeah, it has as much of a Red Dead Redemption 2 feel as it does anything horrific. So, which I think is another one of its strong suits. Our next category is probably the one that we'll dwell on the least because I don't know Brian to be a very intense sports gamer necessarily.
I
But
do like them. I just
this is
yeah.
the best sports and racing category for the best traditional and non-traditional sports and racing games.
Mhm.
We kind of leaned heavily on the racing here, mostly because I didn't really think the majority of sports games that came out this year were anything to write home about. And of course, I'm talking about Madden, NHL, FIFA. I actually reviewed 2 out of the 3 of those, Madden and NHL.
Mhm.
Again, not really anything to write home about. They're fine entries. They're fairly iterative. And I didn't really think that they deserved any type of special accolade or anything. The Game Awards did nominate. I guess it's not FIFA anymore. It's EAFC.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, everything I've seen from that is just kind of same old type of thing. So we've got our own list here, ladies and gentlemen. And how about Brian? Since this is probably the only one you're going to cover, how about you start us off with the Xbox exclusive Forza Motorsport?
So it's interesting. Forza Motorsport, like I love the Forza series, especially this isn't the Horizon, which is more of the arcadey style racing. So I love that they have both of these kind of, where they kind of, stair step each and every other year. But we've actually been on a long time break from not Halo, Forza Motorsport.
Still got Halo on the
I
brain.
still always have it, dude.
Halo Motorsport. I'd play
Yeah,
it.
let's go. Give me that warthog. But what we've seen this year, and I've played on PC, I've heard like when the game launched, there were some Xbox issues. But I'm not going to, that was more cannon fodder for like online console wars. But the nice thing about this version of Forza is that it is also on PC. It runs incredibly well on GeForce Now. And it's such a beautiful racing simulation. And one of the things that I've been able like to do is like you want to manage your tires and your fuel, and it gives you that level of getting deep into it. But yeah, I really enjoy the Forza Motorsport series in and of itself. Then we also have a couple other ones. Disney Speedstorm, like
Yeah.
as a dad, like it's like anything that get the kids racing, because like I would nominate Mario Kart, but that was years and years ago, so like anything that has Disney and anything with Elsa is going is always going to be
Frozen is coming, man. Frozen is coming in 3 days. So that's why I've chosen the art there, and nothing stops Frozen, as I'm sure you know, as a dad.
If Disney
it's
just wants to
unstoppable.
save itself, they'll just release Frozen
Just
3
more
or whatever.
Frozen,
There it is.
yeah. No, that Disney Speedstorm. So the only knock against it is the kind of Fortnite V-Bucks garbage in terms of a lot of the characters, a lot of the racers are kind of you don't have access to them unless you're gonna do a serious grind or put up some serious money, unless you just jump into an offline race a la Mario Kart. And I'll touch on this, I guess. Now I've actually nominated this for best family game as well,
Nice.
because I've got a friend at work, and he said I recommended it to him. He's like, "What have you been playing?" Because he knows I'm a gamer, and I was like, "Dude, this Disney Speedstorm game. I don't know why, but I can't stop playing it." The progression loop, it kind of hooks you in. Like it's like that Fortnite trash of like you've got to get on every day type of deal. But for whatever reason, I was like doing it every day because like I legitimately wanted to. I was like, why is this working on me? But like other games, it's not. I think it might be the racing aspect. Like racing in and of itself is fairly redundant. So I think giving me a reason to do another race, do another race, do another, and then boom, 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 dopamine. You're getting rewards, you're getting upgrades. Like I think that
You're leveling up
sort of,
this, you're doing that.
yeah,
Mm.
you're this close to getting to unlocking Elsa. You're now Belle, gets a speed boost quicker. Like whatever it is, that really kind of got its hooks in me. But he was like, after having that conversation with him 2 weeks later, he's like, dude, I gotta tell you, this Disney Speed Story game. He's like, I'm not really doing any of the stuff that you're doing, but like, yeah, I just jump on and do like a quick race offline with like one of my kids or whatever, and he's like, they eat that up, man. It's like so fun. He's got like a 7-year-old. So yeah, and just like the driving, since we are in the best sports and racing category, it's good. Like it feels like one of the old like Criterion Need for Speed or like Burnout games. Like you're drifting through corners. It doesn't feel like kind of as I don't want to call Mario Kart dinky, because Mario Kart is really good, but I guess it feels like you have weight of an actual car. You can kind of throw into turns and swerve and sort of thing. Like Mario Kart doesn't really have that. It's still a very good racing game, but this is sort of opting for, okay, what can we do that's unique? And I think it gives it elevates you from kind of having a cart, so to speak, to like a vehicle that you were kind of wrestling with and navigating and trying to race as fast as you can through turns and stuff. And so the driving is actually very, very good, which is why I've nominated it here. And the only downside is that it's a free to play, freemium game, but hey, it's sort of a player beware thing of like, you just got to be disciplined if you're gonna play it.
Player and parents beware. Don't have your credit card hooked up to the slot machine. Otherwise,
and turn the internet off, and it's a wonderful game for your kids to play offline, because you have access to all the racers. Actually, you don't even have to unlock them. So
nice.
It's sort of a play your way type of deal. So I love that. Going back on the sort of intense simulation. And you were talking about how in the weeds you can get with Forza Motorsport, and that being a good thing. There is nothing more down in the depths than the Formula One franchise from Codemasters, and their games routinely get nominated by the Game Awards, and I've nominated them here because in terms of a professional racing sim, F1 is one of the best on the market. They continue to provide amazing career modes with a tremendous amount of depth. You can create your own team. You can join a team. This edition, 2023, is even one of the ones they actually alternate years with sort of their like story career mode, where you get like actual cutscenes and voice acting and stuff. This one has it. 21 had it. 22 did not. 23 has it. So I guess
every odd year,
I guess. Well, hey, you know what? I mean, I guess they're like, realistically, we can't push these out every year. So because we're being forced by EA to, because we're a sports game, we have to put our game out every year. We're gonna do the bespoke story content every other year, because we're not just gonna give you garbage. So again, that's another. These games are predicated on quality, and that's why it's here. And some other games are not. And so if you're looking for any type of professional racing game, this has got to be up there among the best of the best. Moving on with other really top tier sports games, it's got to be MLB The Show.
Yeah.
One of the best things for Xbox was getting MLB on Game Pass, getting MLB away from Sony, because this game has to be the gold standard of all the sort of professional league sports games, from NFL to NBA, etc. This game is leading that charge in terms of the game being good every single year, of having a good career mode with a lot of depth, of not reusing and recycling the same game year after year. A great example of that with this game is that this is the politically correct name, by the way. This game has a lot of content surrounding the historical Negro League, where you actually like learn a lot about that league, and it's actually like the president of like the historic society for the Negro League that sort of like gets into some exposition and talks about the different players, like Sly Scooty McGavin, or like what, I don't know, like they have like nicknames and stuff about their abilities, and that's the thing, is like, go play this game, get educated about that whole other baseball league that was happening at a point in time, and how amazing some of the players from that league were. And that's just a whole added thing on this game that they didn't have in 22. They have it in 23 now. The sort of ultimate team esque mode still very good. It doesn't feel as microtransaction heavy as like the EA games. The career mode still very
Yeah.
good. A lot of depth in how you want to play. This is probably the best sort of professional sports league game that's on the market.
Yeah,
As
hands
far
down.
as
It's been that way for a long
yeah,
time. Yeah.
love that Xbox got it. Love that it's not stuck on PlayStation consoles and that everybody can enjoy it. This one's a little bit near and dear to my heart. Did a review on this game not too
Yeah.
long ago. Wild Card Football. Let me tell you, this game looked like one of those games that just wasn't going to deliver, and it proved everybody wrong because this game is fantastic. It's good for people of all ages. It has an in-depth sort of card-based system that you use while you're on the field that is very unique. It's goofy. You got UFOs coming on the field, abducting people. You got ice storms, electromagnetic storms. You got people turning into giants and stomping on everybody. It's fantastic. And this game has online multiplayer in the form of an ultimate team type mode. The exact same as Madden, except guess what, Brian? You cannot buy players. You cannot throw money at this game and buy players, so you know that Joe Schmo on the other side of your internet connection that's beating up on you and it's already scored 3 touchdowns on you by halftime did not buy his players, and you're just bad. And that's the way that online football games should be. That's the way they should be. This game is phenomenal. It looked like it was maybe just going to be a cash grab. It's definitely the opposite of a cash grab. It was only $40 at launch. The quality of this game and the content that you're getting for $40 is fantastic. It's on sale for like 20 right now. Love this game, love this game, love this game. Can't sing its praises enough. And finally, in my opinion, the best racing game of 2023. It's the Crew Motorfest. It's the game that gave my channel the launch into space that it needed with the review that I did for this game. And I think that's just because so many people gravitate towards this because everybody knows about Forza Horizon at this point. Everybody loves that concept of going to an exotic remote location, racing fast cars, racking up XP and goodies and add-ons for your cars and upgrades and such, and improving and expanding your car collection. And Ubisoft took a crack at it. They said, you know what, we think we can make a Horizon game, and this is an incredibly respectable attempt. It is definitely not far off the mark in terms of what the best type of game in this genre is that's on the market. And guess what? You can play it on PlayStation. It's not, we were talking about MLB coming to Xbox. Well, in this sense, Ubisoft brings Forza Horizon to PlayStation. I think that this game is fantastic for that reason, that people on their PS4s and PS5s can play it and enjoy, racing around Oahu, even though they haven't been able to play any of the Forza Horizon games, and as amazing as those are. And this game, honestly, if you turn it on and play it in front of people, they probably wouldn't be able to tell it's not Forza Horizon because it's just that good. It looks fantastic. The soundtrack's great. The cars sound amazing. The handling is good. It's just a good all around open world racing game, and I can't endorse it enough. So we have some contenders here, Brian, for best sports and racing. Who do you want to throw your weight behind?
So I think essentially I want to throw my weight behind MLB The Show, namely because also my Rangers won the World Series. But I'm going to say, I've actually enjoyed the Crew series as well. And I think that they have continued to step up in quality year over year that I've experienced it. And so I have not yet played the one that you're leaning in onto it. But I could tell you, right now, I'm very pleased with the fact that we're talking about multi-platform games that can be open up to anybody. So I would vote for MLB. But I'm willing to hear you out on your pick as well.
So if you're going Crew for 1 and 2, and this sort of the innovation and the escalation in terms of the quality there, this is a metric jump from the Crew 2. I was disappointed with the Crew 2. I didn't think it was that good of a racing game, especially compared to the Forza franchise. The Crew Motorfest is legit. Okay. The worst part about this game is that it has a little bit of the Ubisoft, oh yeah, I'm in a cutscene. I'm gonna talk to you for like 4 minutes about everything on the island that you can do, and yeah, it's a
Yeah.
Ubisoft game.
Well,
Wow, it's so much fun.
that also feels
Yeah,
very Horizon as well.
yeah, yeah,
Sometimes I'm like
right. So
Horizon's like,
you can't even really
right.
fault them for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean the car collection, it's like 500 strong. The racing, it feels really good to drive the cars. The graphics have taken a major step up. It feels like, especially in terms of like the HDR and the lighting, like you feel like you're in Hawaii as you're driving down the coastline. Um, I think that this game is fantastic, and I also think that there was a lot going against Ubisoft to come out and make a Horizon clone. I mean, this could have flopped so bad. People could have thought, "Oh, this is just like a useless cash grab." Ubisoft at it again, making generic, mid-tier games. No, I think everybody really respects this title and realizes that it's a good addition to the genre. And so I would urge you to come on board the Motorfest train, and let's give the award to the crew.
I can get behind that
Let's
easy.
do it. Yes,
Congratulations to the crew.
absolutely.
All right.
Moving on here, we might have to do a part two. We'll see. We'll
We
see
might
how
have to
this
do part
goes.
2.
Yeah, best action game. For the best game in the action genre focused primarily on combat. Oh man, we were talking about this before the show. I think the Game Awards completely bungled this category, and didn't put games in this category that needed to be in it. But we sort of rectified that, and I will let you start out with a game that the Game Awards at least did nominate for this category, and that you wanted to make sure was nominated for this category. Remnant 2. What can you tell me about Remnant 2? Kind of in that
Dude, yeah.
Souls-like genre.
So Remnant 2 is a big surprise for a game that I was able to spend some time with, really enjoyed. Again, I'm one of those games that is playable in a lot more places, so I was able to kick back, relax, and enjoy it over the comfort of GeForce Now. It's a like that shooting and the action. Like I didn't know what was going into it, but a lot of people were like, "Oh, Brian, you should try it." And oh my gosh, like it's got so much depth to it because Remnant, the original, I think a lot of people were like, they definitely a sleeper hit, like definitely were a cult classic. People were really fond of it, and then stepping into Remnant 2, just the level of depth, the combat, the mood, like honestly, I was like, it was kicking my butt enough. So it's got that Souls approach, so that it's going to be that. Yeah, you just kind of having to fight your way through. You have to rethink. You're gonna, like you're gonna die. Okay, what can I do differently? And it was something that was both surprised and delighted me, and I'm really excited that that's continuing on. So yeah, I wanted to make sure that Remnant 2 is on the list.
If you like all of those elements, Brian, let me put you on to a little game called Liza P.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the best games to come out this year. This game is oozes in quality. It is uncompromising. No one can say anything about this game not delivering on the promise and potential. It does that. It may not be everybody's cup of tea, but this game is phenomenal for the people that are looking for that type of game. The type of game that you just described,
Mhm.
Remnant and Liza P are both in that sort of Souls-like category. And oh man, in terms of, if we're just talking about action game, in terms of the combat of this game, the flow of the back and forth between you and especially like humanoid type bosses, the flurry of weapons, feeling like it's like a dance, that kind of bloodborne type of combat that nobody else has really been able to capture other than From Software. It's here. NeoWiz has done it. This game, combat wise, is almost unmatched outside
Mhm.
of From Software. The game in of itself is just a fantastic experience. I enjoyed almost every aspect of it, except that it was a little bit on the long side.
Mm.
But I mean, too much of a good thing is hardly that bad of a thing. So I really did enjoy this game so much. I think it's one of the best of the year, and I think it's absolutely the best Souls-like to come out this year, which unfortunately for Remnant puts it a little bit ahead of Remnant. But Remnant has the multiplayer aspect, which I
Mhm.
will
Yeah.
warrant is kind of a big sort of a bonus for Remnant. But
Yeah.
in terms of core combat, in terms of this sort of intense, deep action genre that From Software sort of pioneered, I think that Liza P is just the best game to come out this year, hands down.
And Solemn agrees. He says Lies-A-P definitely great. Some even say the best Souls like non-Souls game.
Yeah,
So it's like
yeah.
that's exciting to see that there's people who are kind of craving those and actually showing up and praising and playing and purchasing, because it always sometimes feels like, well, we say we want these harder games and these
Yeah.
challenging things, but then people don't play them, and then they just kind of go away.
And I think it's important that they were able to sort of innovate. I mean, if they'd just done a carbon copy of a From Software game, that would have
Right.
been a good enough achievement in and of itself. But people would have just said, "Well, this is just a copy." In terms of like with the weapon system, what they were able to do, where you can take any hilt and any blade from any weapon, take them apart, mix and match them as much as you want. Now your move set is completely different with the blade that you want to use. So you've got more of like a scimitar style with like this large kind of great sword blade. So you're whirling it around.
Yeah.
You have the customization there. And then also in terms of the combat itself, the parry and blocking system is fantastic. It sort of borrows a little bit of sort of the Sekiro type of system, but it changes it to where it's more of like a soul style gameplay, but you can get these perfect parries off that make you take no damage and in some cases actually heal your lost health. The mechanic of being able to restore when you get down to your last health and you use it and you don't have any health flasks left. If you continue to stay in the fight and are tenacious and continue to get damage on the boss, if you're aggressive and do not go down, your flask will actually refill itself the more hits that you can get on that boss. So now I have one more flask to use so I can extend this fight and maybe win on this run. So many like intensity building, fulfilling mechanics here. I mean, with these games, it's very easy, especially for like copycats of From Software, to sort of delve into like frustrating, kind of irksome mechanics. They evolved the formula to give you like ways to win despite the adversity. So them being able to do that, I think, is one of the many things that sets this game apart. We will get more into Lies-A-P later, I am sure, with some of the other categories. But why don't you tell us a little bit about Hi-Fi Rush, which you wanted to make sure was nominated for this category?
Yeah, this was such a I love it when they're like, hey, here's this game that we haven't told you about. And oh, by the way, you can go play it today. And that's how 2023 really kicked off strong. And I think one of the reasons why this game might not win is because it actually came out in the spring. And traditionally you don't see games that, or part of the nominations that came in earlier in the year. But the music, the action, the combat, the graphic style, obviously it feels like, for me, like very like Japanese, focused and infused with kind of this level of characterization and gameplay. And obviously, again, the parent angle, like this is a great game to play around the kids. And you can kind of, as you do the music and the beats and the attacks, it can be very rewarding. And in a way, it's, an action game, but it's also maybe a rhythm game if you kind of start to parse it in that same kind of way. But music, gameplay, everything about this game, I think, oozes an excitement, and hopefully it marks also a methodology that we can kind of see these surprises dropping into Game Pass, from Xbox in 2024 as well.
A great departure for Tango as well, which had been known for that Evil Within sort of Resident Evil knockoff franchise. If you can even call it a knockoff, because it's Shinji Mikami. I mean, he's the Resident Evil 4 guy. So just sort of continuing that legacy, and for him to be willing to delegate to his lower level employees to say, yeah, go work on this passion project, I believe in you, and for them to put that out under the official Tango umbrella, it's just a cool story, man. And it's a great game, looks fantastic, plays fantastic. Couldn't agree more with the nomination. So in keeping with my belief of what this category actually is, I have two nominees which I could kind of skirt over a little bit quicker because they're not going to win this category, but I did want to give them shout outs and flowers here. It's RoboCop and Atomic Heart, and these are just core action shooter games, just intense, just you're just blowing up stuff, blowing off heads. It's quick, it's fast paced, it's kind of like Doom in terms of the gameplay loop that you've got going on. We can start with RoboCop. I mean, this game, I mean, yeah, it is RoboCop. And that's the thing, is like, if you set out to make a RoboCop game, you better make me feel like I'm RoboCop. And boy, did they nail it. I mean, in terms of just when you walk in a room and he does like the scan or whatever, you see all the enemies, and it's just like, you must be eradicated, and like, just like taking them out left and
Yeah.
right. It has some RPG elements. You're leveling up the suit. You're leveling up your abilities to where you can just throw people against the wall and they just like explode. It's gruesome. Don't play this game around your kids, Brian. I mean, that's obvious. It's the RoboCop franchise, for crying out loud. Everything from the voice acting to the soundtrack to the art direction is so faithful to the movie franchise. I mean, they literally got the voice actor for RoboCop to do the voice acting, and the combat is fantastic, which is why it should be nominated in this category. It's one of the best first-person shooters to come out this year. And there's also just fun little stuff like you are like at the front desk of the police station, like taking complaints. Like people are just coming in, like talking to RoboCop, like, my neighbor doesn't it makes loud noises or whatever. And he's like, I'm sure we'll be able to assist you, ma'am. Like, like having to like do dialogue trees and stuff. I mean, this game went above and beyond what they needed to do to sort of cash in on this license. There's a lot of tender love and care for this IP, and the gameplay is just crunchy, visceral, fantastic. So I think it definitely deserved to be on this list. And Atomic Heart, it underdelivered on some of the promise. You see a game that is sort of being built with this type of graphical scale. I mean, the game looks, I mean, just visually, it is a delight. It looks fantastic. It definitely is using sort of that next gen tech on the consoles, and it is pushing PCs to their limit. Again, fantastic soundtrack, fantastic combat, use of weapons, how varied and intricate they are. Just the enemy encounters are incredibly intense and enjoyable. I tried to go for games that really make you feel like you're whirling around, you're looking for your next enemy to shoot. It's very fluid, and it just makes you feel good. It's just like turn your brain off and shoot stuff, and you want that gunplay to feel fantastic. And for both of these games, for different reasons, they really, really do. So I wanted to nominate both of those on this list. I think they're deserving nominations. Probably not going to be in contention to win here, but one that is going to be in contention to win here. And I don't know if you've had the opportunity to play this yet. It is on Game Pass, so maybe. But it is the Dead Space remake, which I sort of struggled. Should that be action? Should that be action adventure? That's a whole other discussion. They both have action in the name, so that makes things very, very complicated. But I was sort of in keeping with, okay, I think one of the best action games probably ever made, but definitely in the last several years, is got to be Doom and Doom Eternal. Yes. And those are fantastic games. So I put Atomic Heart in that category of that genre of game, even though there's some like open world wandering around elements. And I think that I put Dead Space in that category of game as well. It's kind of in that genre. So I think that it fits here. Frankly, it also doesn't quite fit in with the nominees for action adventure. It just kind of misses the mark there. It's like right on the outside at 6 or 7. Mm-hmm. So I think it would have been a fantastic nod here for the Game Awards to do, but we have it here for us, and it's just one of the best games of the year, trending in the high 80s in terms of review scores. It's a fantastic get for Game Pass, and EA again in a year where a lot of developers just didn't cash in. They really put in the effort. They really made quality games. This remake, it justifies its own existence. You would never recommend to anybody to not play this and to play the original Dead Space because of how high quality this is. And this game also sort of blew Callisto Protocol from the original Dead Space developers out of the water with how good it is. It just takes what made Dead Space good and modernizes it. It's a fantastic experience. It is gruesome. It is visceral. It does have that intense action feel. You will be unnerved. You will be on the edge of your seat in the best way. And it's just one of the best games of the year in a year that had way too many good games. And I felt like it definitely could contend with this list.
So the real question is that between Dead Space remake and Lies of P, what game would you say that would be, if I could only pick one, which one would it be?
For you, or which one is the best game?
I think the for me and best game end up being the same.
Really?
I don't know.
I
I'm just curious.
well, I think I think Liza P is fantastic. I think Liza P is uncommonly good. I I think in another year, it's a game of the year contender. It is a game of the year contender for me, for us. But I
Yeah.
think in another year, it's a game of the year contender, full stop, everywhere. And I just think what this game was able to achieve is truly special. It furthered itself enough from Software's formula and from Software's atmosphere and aesthetic, and in storytelling. Like, it does its own storytelling. I've even nominated this for best narrative. I think that this game deserves to win, as much as it possibly can, and I think it's a special game, and a lot of people really, really recognize that. So I would say that Liza P deserves to win this category, but I can't rightfully say in good conscience that Dead Space doesn't deserve to win it.
Mhm.
So it sort of rests with you in terms of where we go with this.
I'm gonna give it to Liza P because of the reaction that I've seen from other players, the reviews that I've seen from other players, and honestly, based off of like what I've shared before, is like I've been working on trying to kind of clear up some of my backlog because I still want to play through Elden Ring, and then it's like to step into that, and what I've experienced with that Elden Ring already, just as scratching the surface, is like, oh, Souls games are actually things that I recognize, like that I was like kind of where the heart was like, oh, I thought this was gone. I think that like challenging and video games were that. And so based off of that and what you've already said with about Liza P, I lean more into that, namely because I'm just not a survival horror kind of gamer personally. And so I would classify just like Zero as like saying, Dead Space is kind of also that survival horror genre as well. And while I've heard like great things about it, I tend to just be like, yep, that's another kind of genre for another kind of player. Like the same thing would go with obviously Dead by Daylight. Like I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I don't need the jump scares in my life. I got enough things to worry about.
Well, that makes me very happy because it definitely deserves to win some awards, and I am a little bit concerned about its odds, especially at the Game Awards. I don't know that it's going to win anything, and in the whole awards gauntlet as well. I just think it's a special game. It's a fantastic game. It's got to be my favorite of the year,
Wait.
and I don't think it deserves it can't get enough praise in my opinion. So thank you, Brian, for that tribute to a fantastic game, and I hope you get around to playing it.
Yeah, we will. I don't think it'll be 2023 though. Like as I look at
Yeah.
2024, I'm going to finish Final Fantasy 16, which coincidentally enough is on this next section for best action adventure. And
Which
then
the Game Awards nominated it for best RPG, which I don't think is the right category for this game. I
having
think
played as much as I've played of it, I agree with that. Going into the game, I was like,
it's
no,
Final Fantasy.
It's Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
It's an RPG. And then it's like, yeah, and then you go and play Starfield, and you're like, oh, there's a big gap. Yeah, we're putting that label on everything now. So, yeah.
Speaking of RPG, that is the next category. And then, did you want to end there for today? We got almost 45 viewers, so we can go as long as you want to go. But we could just do those two and call it and do
Oh
part
yeah,
two.
well, because we've got more pages of these noms, so let's do a part 2 next week.
Okay.
Because that will be I'll be in a off week from the sprint schedule, so it should be where we can sit down and maybe grind on this a little bit more. But yeah,
Okay,
let's
so
finish
we got
with
two
the
more categories. Yeah.
for this podcast, and then we'll follow this up with part 2
Yeah.
and go from there. I think that's the best stress-free podcasting way, as opposed to like, okay, like Brian's watching the clock.
Yeah.
I'm looking to get back to work. All right. So nominations that we have, I think, from the visuals, we got Final Fantasy 16. I can talk about that. Like it's Yoshi P stepping into a single player driven Final Fantasy narrative game, first M-rated Final Fantasy game, which I enjoy as a gamer. As a parent, that has now also limited my ability to play and also limited to the PS5. But thankfully, and this wonderful community, especially I'm going to shout out Chili, Moogle Go Around Radio podcast guy, awesome friend. He showed me how I can get and stream my PS5 to my Logitech G Cloud. So it opens up PS5 more in my household, as opposed to like, it's got to be physically on this one massive box, which Look at my PS5; it's under my desk. It's huge.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy with its success, and I would say yes, Final Fantasy 16 has been a success. It was like I think the quality is there. Long term, though, I do think it was a miss for it not to also release on PC at a minimum. And I think a lot of players, because of its narrative story, and people really do cherish the story, I feel like you end up having a huge chunk of the potential player base that literally is like blind, like anything that says FF16 in it, like run away because you don't want to get spoiled in that case. But yeah, that's the praise that I would leverage at 16 and how it. I do agree with it being an action adventure and not as an RPG.
Yeah, this Final Fantasy 16 is one that I haven't played, but is got to be high on the list in terms of things that I want to, because
Yeah.
I love what they've done with the combat. I have long been in the corner of give me Final Fantasy but Kingdom Hearts, basically, because I knew that that would be a better game than Kingdom Hearts, frankly.
Yeah.
And they delivered that in spades. They went out and got the best guy they could possibly get, the Devil May Cry combat director, and put that in like a Game of Thrones / high fantasy thing. Oh my god, dude! Like, this has me written all over it. It's just a question of, it's not if but when. When I play this game, I'm gonna be blown away. I'm very
Yeah.
sure. A game that did blow me away this year, and we are a no nonsense, no sort of political bullcrap channel. So I didn't have any problem putting this on here. And you might have even nominated it for this
Yeah.
category, but
Oh,
we probably
Hogwarts,
both would have.
absolutely. Yeah.
Just we're talking about the games here. We may have you and I may have different political stances. I personally don't support a thing that comes out of J.K. Rowling's mouth or Twitter. I think it's all hate speech against a group of people, and I don't endorse it. But I do endorse these developers of this game, Hogwarts Legacy, that worked incredibly hard on bringing to life, realizing this amazing world that so much has been added to by the film franchise, by the actors, by the people that worked on the set design, the costume design. Like there's 8 of these films that embellish and build upon this world, and that's what we know as the wizarding world of Harry Potter. It stands on its own. And for a game developer studio to come in and say, we're going to make a game that doesn't follow any of the movies, so it's not just like a licensed sort of scripted thing like all the games that came before, and we're going to write our own story, and we're going to make this like a open world RPG. I mean, what? Harry Potter, I mean, this game looked amazing in the pre-release footage, and it was just like, there's no way this game is going to be what they're touting it as.
Right.
It's gonna be a total flop when it comes out. It's gonna be like, overpromise, underdeliver type of deal. Dude, this game is exactly what they said it was gonna be, and maybe more. I mean, it is incredible what this game was able to accomplish. I mean, I did not realize when you take off on your broom and you see the castle, as big as the castle is. I mean, you could probably spend 40 hours just exploring all of the castle and the secrets and the depth and the unlocks and the little mini quests and everything that you can do in just the Hogwarts castle. You fly off on your broom and the castle's like, oh, it's a little speck over there, and you've got like all of like, I guess what's the Scottish Highlands. I mean, the fact that they came up with that idea of like, no, you're gonna have these surrounding rural communities that feel lived in, and that you can help these people. You know, there's some sort of troll that's poaching off their sheep or whatever, or you got to get them special ingredients for a potion and stuff. I mean, they took The Witcher and they made it Harry Potter. And I say that as a compliment, in that, like, if you're going to do that type of game, you have to make sure that it doesn't feel generic, especially when you're using a license that everybody knows and loves. You have to,
because we've seen what movie games were like back in the day, and then to build like where we've seen The Witcher, also building off of a book series. But
but for them to be able to replicate like how good a game like The Witcher is, and also be faithful and build upon what everybody knows is Harry Potter. I mean, they did both of those things.
Yeah.
The game is so authentic to the wizarding world of Harry Potter and is so quality and polished in terms of trying to emulate a Witcher-esque RPG. The fact that they were able to deliver on both of those things and provide a level of uniqueness in terms of like what the combat is like. Like they have to use a wand. They have to use a wand. What does that look like? How do they make combat engaging? They did it. It's maybe not as engaging as like swordplay, but this is Harry Potter. You have to use a wand. They made wand combat engaging and fulfilling and fun. They made upgrades and spells engaging and fulfilling and fun. They made the quest structure fulfilling and fun. I mean, this game is so fantastic. It absolutely deserves to be here. I had such a great time with it. It's one of those that I just didn't want to put down. I loved every second of it, and I'm probably going to replay it at some point and choose a different house because it's just that good.
So I have the game. I did the first mission. I was absolutely blown away. And then we started reading the Harry Potter series to the kids. And so I've set that one down because there were so many other games that have come out. So I have, when I look back, like what I was talking about earlier, alluding to is that that when I look at my backlog, I'm trying to like actually schedule and make time to play through these games. And the decision to do so actually was it's going to actually be what you see with Final Fantasy 16, where it's like, yeah, sometimes I'm live, sometimes I'll live stream that, but I'm not going to just only play it while live. I'm going to play it off, offline and enjoy the story and move it forward. Because that's actually what I ended up doing with Starfield. One of the things that I was like, yep, I'm playing some Starfield stuff live, but also I continue to play the game offline as well. And then they, so it's not like you're going to see a cohesive live streamed, playthrough. So hopefully that helps me pick up the pace when it comes to actually clearing some of this backlog, because I do still want to play. And then, yeah, I agree. The developers, what they brought, how they brought the IP, the team that's worked on it, everything oozed quality in that first mission. But also, then you go look at the sail through numbers and everything that I think it is deserving from a technological achievement, from a source material. Being true to that and the feel of what you experience. It felt like, in a way, I was like, this feels like a movie, but it's interactive.
I think the true achievement of the game is that it's like you wouldn't really, really, really persuasively say to somebody like, hey, if you've never watched a Harry Potter movie in your life, you should play this, because there's so much to appreciate if you are a Harry Potter fan. But the fact of the matter is that if somebody who's never seen a Harry Potter movie or read a Harry Potter book pick this game up, they're gonna have a good time.
Yeah,
that's incredible that they were able to accomplish that. That you don't need the source material as a baseline for this to be a good game. And so they just didn't rely on that at all. It's all there in terms of Hogsmeade, like the castle, like just the level of intricacy and depth here. I mean, they literally have every location that has ever been referenced in Hogsmeade. And I wonder if they use like the Universal Park as a baseline, because it's probably like a one-to-one recreation. They have everything you could possibly think of in this world. It is here to enjoy and explore. So yeah, it's fantastic. We might be tipping these first two, we might be tipping our hat to like.
We might have showed our hands.
Yeah. In terms of which ones we kind of want to win, but the other four on this list are all fantastic games. I don't know
how Zelda doesn't take it, like in terms of the actual game awards, because it is Nintendo. Like there is I like Zelda. The one reason why I decided to hold off from playing through the latest Zelda was I wanted to wait for the Switch too. Like I was like, I didn't feel good about like hacking the Steam Deck to be able to play it at 60 frames a second. And so I was like, the only thing that knocks it for me, from as a Zelda fan, as somebody who's grown up with the series, like we were debating that in the last episode with Joyful, where like I'm Mario over Zelda, but both of those like I hold in such high regard. And
that was a good episode. Yeah, you guys should go watch that, where Mark and Brian debate Zelda versus Mario. And I agree with you, Brian, on Mario. I don't know. Something about this Zelda, I think, is iterative, and Spider-Man 2 on this list. I love innovation. I love building upon what came before, and I think that's why you and I love the first two on the left so much. Is that you take Final Fantasy 16, it's not like any other Final Fantasy game that's ever existed before. You take Hogwarts, it is taking that genre and saying, you know what, we can do this. We can apply this to this world that is so beloved to millions of people. This is going to be the definitive Hogwarts and Wizarding World experience in terms of it's
Yeah.
not an RPG, rather. It has RPG elements, but it's an open world adventure game in terms of the exploration on offer. The fact that there's so much dungeons and caves and it borrows from Zelda as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
It's sort of taking what came before and innovating on it. Zelda, I understand that it does that with sort of the underground caverns. I forget what the name is called, and obviously I'm showing my ignorance here as somebody who has not played it, because it's $60 or $70 or however much it costs, and I have Breath of the Wild, and so that could be nearsighted. That could be ignorant to say that it and Spider-Man are two very, very good games that sort
Mhm.
of repeat what was very, very good in the past with some innovation built in there.
Mhm.
But I think the thing about Zelda that will eventually make it lose the Game of the Year award to Baldur's Gate 3 at the actual Jeff Keighley's Game Awards is just that Baldur's Gate 3 is just its own thing. Out
It's
of
yeah,
time. It's just
it's
amazing.
a force, like
Yeah.
a,
And Zelda is like Breath of the Wild won for a reason, Like y'all had that debate between Breath of the Wild and Odyssey, but Breath of the Wild did win.
Mhm.
And Breath of the Wild is a fantastic game. Probably I would assume most people would agree that it's the best Zelda game ever made. I would assume a lot of people would agree that it's one of the best games ever made. Tears of the Kingdom is another one of the best games ever made because it's a lot like Breath of the Wild.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
think you and
But it
I are very
yeah.
drawn towards that sort of what is new, what is fresh, what is creating in the space in terms of something that we'd never experienced before. And Zelda really that's the only thing that it lacks.
Mhm.
It's a fantastic game otherwise.
Well, and I think especially why I leaned into Odyssey over Breath of the Wild, because we know Breath of the Wild won. But what the critique of Breath of the Wild comes in is that it felt like that was them just testing, and then Tears of the Kingdom is like, okay, yeah, we've got the model, and now
Yeah.
we're gonna just go all in and go ham, and that's a beautiful thing about it, and that's why I think I do think it's probably going to walk away with a couple of wins, not just because of its quality, but also you have a lot of baked in nostalgia, and I think
Yeah.
nostalgia and that pre-baked in mindset can be kind of cloudy, and that's why I think that Zelda beat Mario originally, and I was like, in the grand scheme of things, I think let's see what ultimately holds up in that. But we got three more games we need
Yeah.
to talk about for the noms before we
Do you
give
have
our
anything
awards.
for Spider-Man?
So
Anything to offer?
I love Spider-Man. I'm looking forward to playing it. But when it comes to Spider-Man 2, I means I have to play through Spider-Man 1. And one of the things that a lot of people will recognize is like I get sucked into these games, service games, typically
Yeah.
so much that I just have to have a better balance. And so when it comes down to it, this all ties into kind of my plan for working through my backlog, is that I do have an own Spider-Man 1. I'm going to play through that. Like I'm going to get to a point where after a handful of these games, I'm going to play through that, and then I'm going to plan on picking up Spider-Man 2. Everything visually, technically looks incredible. The voice acting, very excited to go hands on with Spider-Man and see how it holds up, because like I was really excited for the first one, but then my PlayStation 4 died, and so then I was like, all right, I'll wait till the PS5, and then it ended up being this huge gap. And by that time, it came out on PC, so I was like, I bought it just like I bought Final Fantasy VII Remake. I just haven't spent time with it.
Okay.
And Insomniac is one of my favorite studios.
Oh, they crush
Yeah,
every time they step up to the plate. I mean,
yeah,
Ratchet Rift Apart as well.
yeah.
I actually have played. Excuse me.
You're good.
I actually have
He's
played.
coming out with a cold.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
actually have played the first Spider-Man and Miles Morales, both fantastic games. The fact that Miles Morales is one of those sort of game light experiences, that the $10 off the MSRP price tag, DLC turned full game type of thing, and it was as good as it was. Sort of gives credence to the formula that Insomniac is working with here, and the level of reverence and quality that they are putting into this very beloved character. There have been many Spider-Man games over the years, probably more than 20. These games are by far and away the best ones that have ever been made,
Mhm.
and they crushed it with this newest entry, as far as I understand. But this nomination is here, so I think out of the respect that we both have for this entry, and
Mhm.
we just know it's going to be good. We know that the studio is going to deliver. Everybody really liked it, and it reviewed very, very well. And it's sort of coming from that and the fact that I played the first two entries, and those were fantastic. So this one can only build upon that, and nobody is really complaining about it. It pushes the tech, it pushes the PS5, and it's a fantastic game from what I understand. So I'm really looking
Yeah.
forward to playing it.
And to build off of my priority to make sure that I actually do spend time, they confirmed that the Wolverine, which is the next game that they're working on, is also in the same universe, in-game universe. And so, and I've even heard, we were talking about it as a clip about Daredevil.
Daredevil,
So it's like,
yeah.
okay, cool. Like this
Let's
is
make let's
this is definitely
Insomniac
gonna be on the
MCU
roadmap.
basically. Yeah,
Let's
let's
go,
make it
baby.
happen.
Oh,
yeah.
dude, that would be great.
I think it's where they're going. I really do.
Yeah.
So
I just want them on
that'll be
also on
fantastic.
PC. So come on, Sony, also support PC more, please.
And then of course we have the deadly duo, the two survival horror action adventure masterpieces of Resident Evil 4 and Alan Wake. Resident Evil 4, it did get a Game of the Year nod, I think, from the Game Awards. Love to see that. I was a little bit worried that we would have sort of a little bit of Resident Evil remake fatigue with these, but Resident Evil 4, it's the best Resident Evil game ever made. So the fact that they remade it in the same style as Resident Evil 2, it's probably now the best Resident Evil game ever made. Like I would say when they remade Resident Evil 2, it jumped the old Resident Evil 4 like on the GameCube and PS2 in terms of like the best game. I mean, and the re-releases of course, in terms of the best Resident Evil game ever made. Well, now Resident Evil 4 takes its rightful place upon the throne because having remade this game and it has modernized controls and everything, modernized graphics and gameplay. This is just the best that it gets in terms of. I mean, and I say that it's the best that it gets in terms of this genre, but right next to it is Alan Wake 2, right?
Which
I mean,
like,
just for these games to come out in the same year, it's just like, what are you supposed to do in terms of trying to give any accolades away? But no, this is probably the best Resident Evil experience that you can have. Obviously, people are going to have a preference between third and first person. So if you really want a first person game, I highly recommend Village. But this has got to be the best survival horror action adventure shooter gameplay that you can find with this game. Resident Evil 4 is just a fantastic game, always has been, and now it's cemented as one truly for all time with this awesome entry. It's so fun to play. It's just good. It's just downright good. Like you can't say anything else about it. That it's just fantastic to play. Did you want to talk about Alan Wake 2 a little bit?
Well, so Alan Wake 2, obviously, with the interesting part going into it is like Remedy was talking about offering it as an exclusivity for Microsoft, but then it's a multi-platform game, which I actually am more happy for multi-platform games. From the narrative, from whatever I've seen, especially with the reviews, again, because like when it comes to Resident Evil, Alan Wake, like the survival horror genre, I'm like, yeah, I'm like, I don't have time to play every game, and then B, like that's a genre that I'm just not, looking to spend more time with. But the psychological elements and everything, like the praise that this game has been awarded online, like I have no pushback to because I watched the reviews, I listened to it, and it's always kind of like, is this something that I want to check out? And then it's like, oh, freaky, okay.
Yeah, the only negatives I've heard about this is it's a little bit like I've played all of Quantum Break. And the thing about that game is like it's a little bit up its own butt. I think that's like the best way to put it. Like it's just a little bit obtuse in terms of like, oh, it's super complicated and like it's very layered in terms of the story and stuff. But like that's also kind of what we love about Remedy games, and I think we both have this nominated again out of respect for what they were able to accomplish, out of understanding that the industry really had high regard for this, out of respect for that studio that we know that they produce good work. And I personally, I don't know if you play Control, but I personally nominated this because Control, man, it's one of the best games ever made. And as far as I understand, they've sort of taken that and evolved it. They've sort of taken all the DNA of Control and everything they were able to accomplish with that, stuck it in the Alan Wake universe, which is the same universe, by the way. And in terms of like what they're able to do narratively, Remedy just they're pushing the boundaries of what you can do with a game in terms of narrative, in terms of direction,
Mhm.
in terms of how much depth a story and the player's part in that story can have. And I think that's really incredible that they're doing that, and I think it deserves acknowledgement. In terms of gameplay, it is sort of going a little bit more towards that Resident Evil third person shooter style, especially with the other character Saga, who's like kind of doing a true detective type story,
Mhm.
while Alan Wake is kind of in the Stephen King slash control type of mind mess type of story arc. So they there's duality there, there's variety, there's a lot of intricacy and love and care put into the story elements and the gameplay. And so, yeah, I don't see how this couldn't make the list for us. So we have quite a batch
Mhm.
here, and I honestly don't know where you're gonna go in terms of
You don't?
what you would see. Is it Final Fantasy?
Oh yes.
Okay, okay,
Final Fantasy 16, especially because like now if we were talking about best RPG, which honestly looking at the time, I don't think we can actually get to that as we were talking about
okay.
getting to it. So we'll have to kick off the next part two of this with best RPG. But like Final Fantasy 16 as an action adventure game, the combat, it feels so good. There's so much I think that I have enjoyed exploring. And so I would have to give it personally to Final Fantasy 16 because of the action and the adventure that I think that game really personifies. What about you? Where do you fall?
Man, if so, understanding that we're probably both wrong, and just talking heads on the internet, and Zelda should definitely win this category, but neither of us are really intense, indoctrinated Zelda fans, and I think that kind of goes against it here. Um, and the fact that Resident Evil and Alan Wake sort of cancel each other out a little bit. We talked about Spider-Man just being good, but not
Mhm.
really breathtaking in terms of anything like offering anything new. I think that I would probably get behind Hogwarts with the
Okay.
time that I had with it.
Yeah.
Again, Hogwarts and Final Fantasy, they're kind of giving you similar type of experiences. So I could understand going towards Final Fantasy. I just think with Hogwarts, like what they were able
Yeah.
to do. I think when you look at Final Fantasy 16, like it has competition, steep competition from its own franchise. Like I
Yeah.
think Remake is beating it right now. I think Remake and Rebirth are going to be better games together than 16 is. I think even yeah, I think 16 is a little more in line with like 15 in
Yeah.
terms of like the quality that it like it's high 80s. It's very good. I don't know if it actually falls under best of the year. I haven't played it though. I've only watched footage of it. I've watched people play it, and
Yeah.
I've seen people talk about it, and it's sort of regarded. I think it seems like as kind of like a flawed masterpiece
Hmm.
in a way. Um, I think Hogwarts is just a masterpiece, but it's
Yeah.
maybe not. It is definitely for people that love that
Mhm.
world and
Well,
that
you also,
universe.
yeah, but you also said that for first timers stepping into it, like you don't have to have that prerequisite. And so I
Yeah.
was gonna say, like, I will actually give it to Hogwarts. I will give it to you, namely because it's on every platform. I can play Hogwarts around my kids, and I can't play Final Fantasy 16 around the kids. Outside of like, okay, I know I've been in this field, I can run
Yeah.
around and I can fight and grind on random enemies without worry about whatever. But then you step into a cutscene, and all bets are off. And so, like, while I would say my personal goes into that, and not, and again, nothing against Zelda outside of the fact that Nintendo and their Switch hardware need to be invested in, and I believe 2024 is what everything is looking to see where they can actually refresh that hardware. That I think that's where it's like perfect. It's going to be. I could see how where like it's always interesting. Like we're focusing on the year it came out rather than like okay the games that you play over time and return to. And so I could see where like yeah, Zelda is my 2024 game of the year, because it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
on
yeah.
new hardware. And who knows, maybe they'll have a new edition and then you
And
see.
I do think that I mean we need to be fully transparent.
Yeah.
Some of these games we just have not played, and that in large part comes down to when they released in the year,
Yes.
And Final Fantasy and Hogwarts came out earlier in the year. We had more time to get the funds to purchase them in my instance, or for you to have the time to play them.
Yeah.
And these and Resident Evil as well. You know, I've had the opportunity to play that. So these other three, Spider-Man, Alan Wake, and Zelda, although Zelda released earlier in the year, but
Yeah.
I guess
Well,
sort of
Zelda
like
was sandwiched
like
right in
that's Nintendo time, man. Like
Yeah.
Nintendo time is different. No, we have no excuse. Zelda probably will stand the test of time as the best game on this list. But in terms of the games that affected you and I
Mhm.
the most this year, that we had the most profound experience with, it undoubtedly had to be Final Fantasy and Hogwarts. And I think Hogwarts we have the most consensus on.
Yeah.
So, and it's just a fantastic game.
Yeah.
We are about to sign off here, but what do you say we give the folks at home a little tease for next time? What our Game of the Year nominees will be? It might surprise you a little bit. What we have in store. Let's take a look for next week.
All right.
Here we go.
Yeah. Our Game of the Year nominees, I'm just going to run them through for those of you who are enjoying the audio and you're enjoying some Starfield music as well, which is just so good. That's again, I stand by, like, they got snubbed on the music.
Oh, yeah.
But we see Diablo 4, we see Baldur's Gate 3, Hogwarts, Liza P, Super Mario Wonder, and Starfield. And I think all 6 are incredible experiences.
I think we got this list right.
I still have to go hands on with Liza P. I think this is the definitive list for sure.
This is the list. I think the only one that probably should be on there is Zelda, but I don't really know who to take off. Maybe Diablo, but again, you know, neither of us are Zelda shills, and we're the ones doing the awards. So
yeah, there it is.
Yeah, but we will decide between these 6 next week. Will it be Starfield? We know Brian really likes Starfield, and he really likes Mario.
Yeah.
But Baldur's Gate, the unsurmountable giant, who's going to win? I really am looking forward to that discussion, Brian. Yeah. This is the most exciting 2 episodes of Epic Loot Radio that we have ever done, and it's fantastic. I love coming on the program. So, yeah, man. It's great. I had a great time this week and can't wait for the next part. Yeah,
I know. It is just like this list is just ever awesome. So thank you guys for tuning in for the live show. Thank you guys. If you were watching this after the fact, be sure to sign off in the comments, hit that like button. Shout out to Timmy for gifting us their Prime sub for 4 months over on Twitch. And guys, love you guys so much. Thank you so much for being here. Hopefully we'll see you in the next episode. But until then,
tune in next week, guys.
Next week, as we continue on our epic journey on
Game of the Year.
Epic Loot Radio. Epic Loot Radio.